is The Final Play with Eric Ritchie. Brought to you by Firestone Complete Auto Care, your home of the triple guarantee. Fixed right, priced right, and right on time.
A game, a suspension, and the return of the team's second all-time leading scorer. Hi again, everyone. I'm Eric Ritchie, and there is plenty going on for the Saints at training camp. Hear what the Saints are saying about the linebackers, Derek Brooks and Derek Smith, in just a few minutes as well. But we kick off tonight's show with news of another player facing a 4-game suspension for the Saints. This time it's place kicker Garrett Hartley, who, as Fox 8's Rob Ennis explains, is the latest in a growing list of Saints players who have tested positive for a banned stimulant.
Garrett Hartley said he received Adderall prescription pills, a banned stimulant, from his college friends to stay awake while driving from Dallas to New Orleans during the offseason.
I didn't think twice about it, but, being naive is not an excuse. The NFL does do a good job, in telling us what we can and cannot take, and not knowing is, like I said, it's not an excuse. And for that, it's literally a tough pill to swallow.
Hartley said he recently received a letter from the NFL saying he had failed a drug test.
My sincere, apology goes out. There would never be anything that I would do that would try to, hurt the team or, definitely, my reputation, and, just, want to, definitely apologize to, the Saints and to my teammates and definitely to the fans because, they support us, every day out here.
Hartley becomes the 6th Saints player in the past 2 seasons to be suspended for violating the NFL's drug policy.
I think it's high, and I think we obviously need to look closely at we're constantly trying to educate and make sure the players are aware of what's on the list and what's on the banned substance list. The NFL does a great job of trying to hand out, post, and educate our players, and we got to continue to look at doing a better job ourselves.
While Hartley faces a 4-game suspension, the second-year pro wants to make one thing clear.
I've never taken, stuff to, as far as steroids or anything along those lines to make myself a better athlete. I believe in, hard work, and this is definitely a setback. I'm just trying to start off my career the right way, and this is a bump in the road, but, we're going to overcome it.
Hartley said he doesn't plan on appealing his 4-game suspension.
Rules are rules. There's no way around it, and I'm definitely one guy that's, is very straight-laced, and, it was broken. It's in the contract, and it's in the stipulations, and now it's just time to, serve the consequences and move on from there.
Hartley will stay on the Saints' 80-man roster for now, but once the season starts, he'll be placed on the reserve suspended list for the first 4 weeks. Rob Ennis for The Final Play.
Rob, thanks. Last season, 5 Saints ran into trouble with the NFL, 4 of which Will Smith, Charles Grant, Deuce McAllister, and Jamar Nesbitt, all involved in that Star Caps incident. Smith and Grant expected to serve their suspensions in the first 4 games of this season. Nesbitt served his 4-game suspension last year.
From 51. Online, is it long enough? You betcha.
Coach Payton and GM Mickey Loomis have admitted releasing John Carney following the 2006 season was a mistake, and today brought Carney back for round 2 with the black and gold. Once again, here's Fox 8's Rob Ennis with more on the Saints' starting kicker for the first 4 weeks, at least.
It's good to be back. It's good to be back. Feels like I've been in a time warp.
It was deja vu for John Carney at Saints training camp. Away for 2 seasons, Carney is now back in the black and gold. He was even greeted by one of his old teammates, Drew Brees.
We went through that magical season in 2006 and came out, won the playoff game against the Eagles. So we went through a lot together, and so there's that bond, and I look forward to playing with those guys again.
During that season, Carney drilled 23 of 25 field goals, but then he was released, a move that Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis have both openly regretted.
We're rehashing that. I think it's on record that there has been. So, next question.
Has he told you that he regrets it? He has, and so has Mickey Loomis, and I appreciate that. That's part of the game. You make decisions at the time with the information given to you, and you hope it's the right decisions. And I went on and was fortunate to get work with other teams, and here I am again.
And this time, he even has more experience.
I raised the average age of the team. I'm looking forward to working with the young punters and Garrett. And the coaches have mentioned, that my mentorship could help them a lot.
I'm very fortunate that we have we have John Carney in here, because there's so much I'm going to be able to learn from him.
At 45, Carney says he'll continue to play as long as teams let him. After 21 seasons in the NFL, Carney still believes he can lace them up and put it through consistently.
I feel great. You know, I can't fool myself and think that I'm as you know, good as I once was, but you train and you focus your goal on being at your best at least one day a week, and you plan on that being Sunday.
And for the first 4 Sundays of the season, expect to see this familiar face lining up for field goals. Rob Ennis for the final play.
Thanks, Rob. Drew Brees has left Saints training camp, but will rejoin his teammates Wednesday in Houston when they will practice against the Texans. The Saints quarterback has left training camp to attend his mother's funeral. Mina Brees, an attorney from Austin, Texas, died on August 7th while traveling to Colorado. A memorial service is scheduled Monday night in Austin, Texas. Brees participated in a practice at Saints headquarters in the AM, but was excused from a second practice this evening. It's time for us to take our first break here on the final play. When we return, hear what Sean Payton has to say about linebackers Derek Brooks and Derek Smith. And look who found the end zone. Hear what Drew Brees had to say about Jeremy Shockey's first touch as a Saint when the final play rolls on.
From Fox 8 Sports.
The things that I'm behind on are the things that you gain with experience. You know, little things that you pick up on, keys that you see on the field. Those are the things that I'm trying to catch up with now. Even just from Monday to here, I learned a lot as far as just anticipation. You got to anticipate what the offense is going to do. Think about different scenarios you can be in and try to bring that into the game. It helps you a lot.
A busy week for Malcolm Jenkins for sure. Welcome back to the final play. I'm Eric Ritchie. You know, it was right after this show ended last Sunday that the Saints sent out a release that they had come to terms with their #1 draft pick, and on Friday he played well in limited action against the Bengals. The Derek Brooks, Derek Smith saga continues on. The 2 veteran linebackers worked out for the Saints on Wednesday, but right now in limbo land. No contracts were offered then, and the Saints said they would wait until the weekend to make a decision on their status. As we wrap up the weekend, here's what we got.
Nothing new to report. Nothing new to report. I mean, there's nothing at all.
Can I, Sean, can I just say, are you just going to put these guys on hold? Or,
No, it's ongoing, and I'll leave it at that.
All righty. As for fellow linebacker Mark Semino, he has been placed on injured reserve after surgery for that torn triceps this week. Rookie defensive back Reggie Jones, he's out for the season as well. Also on injured reserve, his Achilles tendon injury in practice last week. And you saw Charles Grant pull up with a hamstring injury in Friday night's opener. Well, he's expected to be out at least a week. And with Billy Miller still nursing that injured knee, and Darnell Dinkins also out with that injured ankle against the Bengals, defensive end Jeremy Parnell has been moved to the offense from defensive end to tight end. Friday's preseason opener with Cincinnati certainly had its moments of excitement, but also plenty of plays unfolding that had the Who-Dats mumbling, same old, same old. To me, the biggest reason for excitement was that new-look D creating the turnovers, Darren Sharper forcing the fumble, Jonathan Vilma with the recovery. Not quite a scoop and score, ran out of gas, but later Vilma also had an interception, which he fumbled back near the goal line. Only 1 sack, but the guy could be a difference maker. Anthony Hargrove brings down ex-Saint J.T. O'Sullivan on the first play of the second quarter. Really like this guy. Hope he makes it. Another reason for excitement, Drew Brees and Jeremy Shockey. Both look good. Both looked in sync. Look at Jeremy put his head down, taking the contact. Shockey with 3 catches, 61 yards. That one for 33 yards. He was pumped. 3 plays later, he was even more excited. Across the middle, Shockey hangs on for his first touchdown as a Saint to put New Orleans on the board 7-0. That's right, to the fans, he would keep the football. Preseason, keeping football? All right. Just before the half, here's that same old, same old. Jason David beat 3 different times, and this one cost the Saints a touchdown when Bell Chase product Chris Henry ties the game with a touchdown. 7-7. Third quarter, Mark Brunell finds Robert Meacham, who had snuck behind the defense, 64 yards for this score. Saints go up 14-7. Meacham, like Shockey, 3 catches, finished with 77 yards receiving. A 54-yard Garrett Hartley field goal, who had earlier missed from 20, that ended the scoring. Saints win 17-7. Post-game reaction now, starting with Brees talking about the touchdown pass to his buddy Jeremy Shockey.
You know, that's just one of those matchup things where, you know, I feel like I like my guy over their guy, you know, in regards to the matchup. And yeah, that's just the middle linebacker trying to run down the middle of the field with Jeremy. And you know, he knows that ball's coming. He knows where I'm trying to put it, and obviously there's a big trust factor there, and something that we've been working on. I love what I've seen out of Jeremy this offseason, and then, you know, throughout training camp, and I think that we are, you know, we're really starting to get on the same page, and I think that play in particular was pretty evident of that.
It was good early on to kind of cause a big play. Having a lot of guys to the football is what we want to do. Creating turnovers is something we definitely want to try to do each and every game. And that's going to work well with our offense. If our offense can put points up like they did today, and we can cause turnovers, it makes for a good formula for wins.
I've never been a fan of treating the preseason where, you know, I'm just trying to get by and just doing just enough for the preseason. I like to treat it as a mental, it's almost like a mental practice for the real game.
Still 3 more preseason games on the docket before the regular season opener with the Lions on September 13th. But Friday was the debut of the new look D under Greg Williams. Fox 8's Sean Fazan with more on how the night went for the defense.
For those waiting for this Greg Williams-led defense to make its mark, the wait wasn't long. Just 5 plays into last night's game, a Darren Sharper hit on Cedric Benson turned into a Jonathan Vilma 47-yard fumble return.
It was a good way to set the tone, hoping the offense would score the ball, trying to set them up.
Later in the quarter, Vilma would strike again, intercepting a Carson Palmer pass and returning it to the 3-yard line before fumbling it back to the Bengals.
The second turnover, again, it was another situation where I was excited. I didn't think it was a turnover.
That's where we're going to kind of put our hat on, is making big plays and causing turnovers.
While the crafty veteran Sharper proved he can still make plays, the Saints' first-round draft pick Malcolm Jenkins received his welcome to the NFL.
It was fun. You know, it was real quick, but I enjoyed the time out there, and, you know, it's great to get a little bit of experience.
He only had 1 official tackle, but this hit on Jerome Simpson helped Jonathan Casillas grab the Saints' 3rd turnover. Not bad considering Jenkins has only been in camp since Monday.
Just from Monday to here, I learned a lot as far as just anticipation. You got to anticipate what the offense is going to do.
And Saints fans anticipate big things from number 27. From the Superdome, I'm Sean Fazan, Fox 8 Sports.
All right, Sean, thanks. Here's how the Saints schedule unfolds for the week, starting with 1 p.m. practice tomorrow. Now, weather permitting, that one open to the public. Tuesday is a travel day. Then 2-a-day practice sessions scheduled for Wednesday and Thursday. That's when Drew Brees rejoins his team. The Saints and Texans will practice against each other. Friday's an off day. Then the Saints and Texans in the 2nd preseason game of the year, 7 p.m. Saturday night from Reliant Stadium. And like all 4 of the preseason games for the Saints, you can watch that game live right here on Fox 8.
Let's go! The Sean Payton Show takes you out of the stands and beyond the sidelines. It's about the game and its players, the city they live in, and the fun the fans share with good friends and great food. It offers the avid football fan everything they need to know about the Saints and brings you the action from the gridiron of New Orleans and its Saints.
Man, 4th down on 4.
Welcome into 4th down. The first preseason game is done. We'll look back at the good, the bad, and the ugly from Friday night at the Dome. We begin tonight with another bad choice by a Saints player. Garrett Hartley becoming the latest one, busted for a banned substance. He'll join Will Smith and Charles Grant on the suspended list for the first 4 games of the regular season. His replacement, a player Sean Payton says should have never been let go in the first place. It just might be Sean Payton's biggest regret as head coach, releasing kicker John Carney after the 2006 season. The carousel of kickers that followed came full circle yesterday, however, when the Saints picked up the 45-year-old kicker. The signing, not a change of heart, but rather a backup plan. The team's current kicker, Garrett Hartley, will miss the first 4 games of the regular season after testing positive for a banned substance. The move was a no-brainer for Payton.
John was the guy that we felt comfortable with. John was the guy, to be honest with you, last year when he was with New York, and we were kind of going through the different options at kicker. You know, we were hoping he would have come clean off their roster. He never did.
Carney returns to a franchise where he made more than 83% of his kicks over 6 seasons.
Feels like I've been in a time warp, popped back down here after 3 years, but it's good to be here.
In 2006, Carney connected on 23 of his 25 field goal attempts. Since then, 4 different kickers for the Saints have combined to miss 12 field goals.
I felt that I did a good job for the Saints in 2006, and I had 1 year left on my contract, so sure, I was disappointed, but it is the game. And like I said, you make decisions at the time with information given, and I understood their positioning, and it's part of the game.
Another part that Carney has excelled at is taking advantage of opportunities. Last season, he replaced an injured kicker in New York. His 35 field goals would send him to Honolulu. Sean Payton even brought up the story of Wally Pipp, whose injury gave way to Lou Gehrig's Hall of Fame career. Payton wouldn't rule out that his new kicker could permanently replace his suspended kicker.
That would be the case for the guys that play at defensive end. That would be the case for the guys that play while someone's injured. And so John knows that, and I'm sure Garrett knows that.
Carney didn't attempt a field goal in the early practice Sunday, but says 50 yards isn't out of range, especially in the Superdome.
Can't fool myself and think that I'm as good as I once was, but you train and you focus your goal on being at your best at least 1 day a week, and you plan on that being Sunday.
But for how many more Sundays can this 45-year-old answer the bell? Carney says that decision won't be up to him.
The league usually dictates that, and as long as I'm healthy and I still enjoy the game, I'll keep pushing it.
Since his release, here's a list of the kickers the Saints have made their makes and misses that have come after Carney. The original replacement, Olindo Mare, making a little more than half of his attempts. Each kicker after that, a little more accurate. Juan Kincaid joins us in the studio now to talk a little bit more about this. Shocking news when it came down yesterday. Not that you ever expect to hear of suspensions and things like that, but man, this one really causing some rifts, and there's a chance that Garrett Hartley loses his job.
Yeah, a guy that didn't miss a field goal at all last year. That's the part that you have to wonder what's going on with this kid. I mean, he says it wasn't anything major that he took, but he didn't know it was on the banned substance list for the NFL. There's so many medicines that are banned right now. It's really hard to keep up. But again, John Carney coming in, Garrett Hartley has to basically sit 4 games. If Carney has a great 4 games, yeah, there's a kicker controversy all of a sudden. And, if you give the fans a choice, you know who they're going to ask for, John Carney, because they're saying he never should have been traded in the first place. So no matter how well Hartley kicked last year, which was fantastic for a guy just coming into the league.
Well, and now you've got to start looking at the atmosphere that surrounds this locker room, and we asked Sean Payton this. This is now 7 guys in the last 3 years that have tested positive for a banned substance, not necessarily steroids, but the diuretics, the whole Star Caps case. And you've got to wonder, what can the Saints do? Because Sean Payton acknowledged that's a high number.
Yeah, it is a high number. I think it has to be on the players more so than the team, Scott. I think the players have to take a responsibility for themselves. Look, your body is your moneymaker in the NFL, in the NBA, hockey, whatever it is. You have to understand what you're putting in your body. It's as simple as that. And if players like a Reggie Bush or Deuce McAllister when he was here, Deuce is a guy that if he gets back into the league, he'll have to sit 4 games as well, more than likely, with Charles Grant and Will Smith. Understand what you're putting in your body, because in the long run, that's how you make your money in whatever league you're playing in. And players have to own up to it right now. I mean, the teams can only say so much. Eventually, these players are not babies anymore. They're going home. They're doing whatever they do. They got to own up to doing the right thing with their bodies.
It just seems like an abnormally large number is happening with the Saints in that circumstance. But then you really liked how Hartley, though, bounced back, misses that chip shot, basically an extra point, comes back with a 54-yarder. So after 4 weeks, there could be a great competition here that ultimately could lead to both of these guys could stay on for the long haul.
Well, because when John Carney was here, he wasn't doing all the kickoffs then. The big complaint with Carney from Sean Payton's thing was that the kickoffs were landing 10, 15 yards from the goal line. So when Hartley comes back, he has a little more depth, obviously a younger leg, but probably not going to be as accurate on the long haul. haul as John Carney's going to be. Does Carney end up doing your field goals if he plays well while he's here, and Hartley be your kickoff specialist? And that remains to be seen. If you want to flip things for a second, talk about defense, we talked to Greg Williams earlier today. He talked about how there were so many things to like about his defense, a few things he didn't particularly care much about, but on the whole, he was pretty impressed with game one.
Palmer under pressure, picked off, right on cue, Jonathan Vilma.
Huff and puff as he might, Jonathan Vilma couldn't turn any of his turnovers into touchdowns Friday night, and his coach couldn't understand why.
I can't believe we didn't score. I can't believe we didn't score. So I wasn't real pleased with that, and these guys know that. We've got to finish those things.
But despite his annoyance with his team's inability to turn picks into six, Greg Williams saw a lot to like from his defense in his first live action against an opposing team, especially the way they took habits formed in practice to the playing field.
Good to see us take the ball away, and when I say take the ball away, they were all three created takeaways. They weren't give me takeaways. There were things where we had to knock the ball out. We had to be conscious of where the ball was.
He also praised the play of his younger players, saying they stepped it up in the second half, thus making the piecing together of a depth chart this early in camp nearly impossible.
As much as you'd like to set the depth charts, I say again, they're not set, okay? And it doesn't make any difference how many people think that Malcolm Jenkins is going to be third team. Those guys that played at the end, there's some of those guys that really played really well at the end that are going to start working their way up.
Williams refused to single out any players, but he did single out specific plays that showed breakdowns and an attempt to right the wrongs.
3 explosive passes, all 3 very correctable. One of them was a tremendous teachable moment. They throw a 5-yard hitch to a wide receiver, Ocho Cinco. We miss a tackle, and we had 2 defensive linemen run a wide receiver down.
And in the end, Williams said the first preseason game was just as important for himself and his staff as it was for the players, saying they're still getting to know each other, but in time, they'll all be on the same page. I'm Juan Kincaid, 4th down on 4. Typical Greg Williams going to complain about Jonathan Vilma not getting into the end zone on 2 separate occasions, but that kind of explains the kind of coach he is on defense. He wants the guys to be aggressive. He wants guys to finish the play. That is the big difference in this defense from last year. One of the big differences from last year to this year. Guys have an understanding now, look, we got to finish every play we can, because it could mean the difference between winning and losing.
Well, I want to ask you this question. Were those 2 turnovers, the interception and the fumble recovery, basically lipstick on a pig? Because the run defense was extremely poor in that game, and did it mainly just kind of look good because of those 2 turnovers, when maybe the overall effort wasn't exactly almost similar to what we saw last year.
Well, if you look at the Bengals during that drive, they were actually moving the ball down the field, and then the the fumble recovery, turns things around. But yeah, there is still some issues to be sorted out on this defense, and I've always thought it begins on that front 4. It's going to be really interesting with this football team when you see Charles Grant and Will Smith, when they have to serve those 4 games. How are the guys on the ends going to do? But still, the guys right in the heart of that defense, those defensive tackles, Cedric Ellis, Kendrick Clancy, guys like that, they need to start stepping up and showing an efficiency of stopping the run, plugging the holes. One thing I did like about the defense is that, Williams was very vanilla in their approach, and they still got pressure on the quarterback.
They had to blitz, though, to get the pressure on the quarterback. They never got it just
But there was nothing
forward.
fancy about the blitz.
No, it was very generic. But now there's still other problems that haunted them last year, that haunt them again this year.
Talking about Jason David?
Well, okay, we'll get to Jason David later. I'm talking about 3rd and 1. Heath Evans was supposed to be the savior, and they got to the goal line. They were on the 5-yard line, 1st and goal, and they could not get the yard when they needed it.
There's a big question mark on this offensive line, too. We know how well this offensive line protects for Drew Brees, but can they get 3rd and 1, 4th and 1? That's been the big question mark. It's not the pass blocking, it's the run blocking, creating holes and having guys that can get through that hole. It's going to be interesting to see how this goes from here on out, because you say you got the running backs to get that short yardage gain, but do you have the offensive line? And they're not going to make any changes to the O-line. It's been together for like the last 4 or 5 years.
Do you think that they'll make a move with Jason David for Derek Brooks? Do you think Jason David makes it through camp?
I don't think Jason David makes it past the 2nd set of cuts. Reading Greg Williams' quote today after practice, he didn't call out Jason David. They asked him about how he plays. He said, you know what? It is what it is. He's been playing well in training camp, but he said, you've got to find a way to bring what you do in training camp onto the playing field. And then he finished it by saying, it is what it is.
Malcolm Jenkins running with the ones and not only the nickel package today, he was also running some at safety, some at cornerback. As he starts to progress, which is happening pretty fast, someone's going to have to move out. I think the odd man out here that everyone knows is Jason David. Walking Cade, thanks a lot.
All right.
A second and a fifth-round pick. That was the cost to acquire Jeremy Shockey last year. Before Friday night, the consensus was leaning toward bust. But then one catch and another, and if things keep going like this, well, bust could quickly turn into boom.
All composure is lost.
What a difference an offseason makes.
Drew Brees now has Jeremy Shockey at his disposal.
Last season, his first with the Saints, Jeremy Shockey couldn't catch a break. Now, he can't drop a pass. One preseason game does not a successful trade make, but one preseason game does make it easy to see why Sean Payton was so steadfast in acquiring Shockey last year.
Listen, we brought him here to help us win, and he's obviously a lot healthier now than he was a year ago.
Brees for Shockey. Touchdown!
His third catch of the game Friday night was also his first touchdown as a Saint, a picture-perfect example of the time he's put in with Drew Brees.
You know, it's just one of those matchup things where, you know, I feel like I like my guy over their guy, you know, in regards to the matchup. And, yeah, that's just the middle linebacker trying to run down the middle of the field with Jeremy. And, you know, he knows that ball's coming. He knows where I'm trying to put it. And obviously there's a big trust factor there and something that we've been working on.
With Drew Brees, you never cover it. The defender has his back turned, you can bet he's probably going to unload the ball. So the defender, even if he has good coverage, he only has two eyes, and that's looking this way. That's not on the back of his head. So, like I said, as a play, we rep a lot, and it's just fortunate enough that he threw it to me and I made a play.
Constant pursuit of perfection by way of repetition. It's how Drew Brees operates, and it's what he expects from his receivers.
I love what I've seen out of Jeremy this offseason and then, you know, throughout training camp. And I think that we are, you know, we're really starting to get on the same page. And I think that play in particular was pretty evident of that.
But perhaps more evident of a healed-up Shockey. It's one thing to be in position to make a great catch. It's another to make the catch while taking a big hit.
Last year I was injured this time, so I'm just blessed that I'm healthy now and I'm going to run with it.
When a guy's healthy, he can run faster, he can jump higher, he can catch the ball a little bit easier. And I thought he made two good plays. The touchdown pass was a really good play. It was contested, you know, with a guy kind of closing on him. So that was good.
And it would be better if the performance can be duplicated throughout the regular season.
Looking back, all of 2008, Shockey unable to find the end zone, and he averaged less than 10 yards per catch. Friday night against the Bengals, his first score, and more importantly, perhaps, more than 20 yards per reception. Maybe the only player with better stats than Shockey Friday night, middle linebacker Jonathan Vilma, fumble recovery and a pick, totaling 112 yards, although he couldn't find the end zone. Juan Kincaid with more on the man in the middle for the Saints.
I know Jonathan Vilma inside and out, and he is perfect to what we do defensively. He would be outstanding in our system.
Greg Williams was barely on Sean Payton's staff, but even he recognized a natural when he saw one. A guy that could take his complex defense and make it look easy to execute. Jonathan Vilma's that player.
He's doing some things right now that there's a great chess match, and there's a great thinking man's game going on between him and Drew. And that's fun.
And there's no bigger thinker than the Saints' man in the middle. Since arriving in New Orleans a season ago, Vilma's had to wear many hats. Organizer, dispatcher, motivator, playmaker in the Saints' defense. And he's done it all with ease. And now he's being asked to do it all again from a different coach, barking new instructions to him from the sideline.
It's similar to what I ran my rookie year and my second year in the NFL. So the concepts were the same. It was easy to learn the concepts. The language is different, so I had to adjust to the language. But, you know, we've installed the defense a couple of times now. So, of course, me being the middle linebacker, I have to know it.
He has to because guys around him are depending on him, too. As the signals fly in, Vilma goes into computer mode.
To get the play, I try to get a feel for my defensive coordinator. So if Greg Williams calls a certain play, I may be thinking more run on this play, or if he calls a different play, I may be thinking more pass. I may be thinking that he's trying to force him to throw a check down, things like that. So that'll be the first first part of the process.
A lot to process, but still more to deliver.
Then I relay it to the defense. I want to know the down and distance. I want to know what personnel the offense has in the game, and then go from there. And then I can start breaking down the offense. You know, once you scout them for a week, then you can understand certain formations are going to run certain plays.
And that's Vilma's job on every play. But as complex as it seems, it's very routine to Vilma, mainly because all his footballing life, his routine has been as the team's quarterback on defense.
That's all I wanted to be.
All you wanted to be. Who did you have in your game after?
Ray Lewis, you know, all the great Miami Hurricane Bill linebackers, you know, we had a ton of them.
Jonathan is good enough. He'll play at a high level.
That's for sure. He didn't miss a start or a play last season. And his team-leading 151 tackles says he's always around the ball. Now it's Greg Williams' job to keep him at a sky-high level.
Difference-making players, great leaders, great captains, top-notch players, not only play at a real high level, they're able to raise the level of everybody around them. If you can't raise the level of everybody else around you, you're just a highway cone out there. We don't need highway cones. We need people that are going to rise up.
I'm having a lot of fun in the system, and I definitely understand we're growing a bond as we keep going in. I get to understand him a little bit more, and he understands me, and you know, we're going to obviously be around for a little while. So I definitely like to pick his brain, understand where he's coming from with some of his play calling, and then relay it to the defense. But I'm having a lot of fun, a ton of fun with it.
I'm Juan Kincaid, 4th down and 4.
Running with the first team today at practice, first-round pick Malcolm Jenkins. He lined up at safety sometimes and as the extra defensive back in the team's nickel package. Friday night, he played with the third-teamers. His first NFL game action, productive though. Jenkins with a play in the fourth quarter that led to a pick and says, hey, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
As far as knowing what to do and knowing where to be, I'm pretty caught up. I think I'm, you know, where I need to be with that. Physically, I think I'm starting to get in better shape. You know, I think I wanted more reps than what I got, but they didn't want to, you know, force the issue and put too much on me too fast. So next week I'll definitely play a lot more. But you know, it's always, you know, as we go through the practices next week and things like that, I'll, you know, come around and be, you know, where I need to be. I can't put a date on when I want to be starting, but I definitely, you know, that is a goal of mine, you know, to get up in the starting lineup and contribute. But you know, to do that, I have to, you know, a couple things I have to accomplish before that big goal, and you know, right now that's all I'm focused on.
The LSU Tigers wrap